Gary can be seen running through the subway station, desperately trying to find an exit. He reaches a door, only to discover it's locked. Without hesitation, he forcefully breaks it open. Inside, he heads towards a window, but his hopes are crushed when he realizes it's been bricked up. Suddenly, all the lockers in the room swing open, revealing their mirrors. Approaching the massive mirror in the room, Gary insists that he wasn't attempting to escape. To his surprise, the mirror begins to shatter, and in his attempt to clean it up, he accidentally breaks off a piece. Apologizing, he bends down to pick up the fragment, but his reflection remains motionless. In the reflection, he sees the shard of mirror in his hand, and his mirror image uses it to fatally harm him. An alarm blares, and a man wakes up to turn it off before getting out of bed. In his bathroom, Ben gazes at himself in the mirror and consumes a crushed tablet with his water. He bids farewell to his sister Angie, assuring her that everything will be alright. Ben makes his way to an abandoned estate, where the security guard Lorenzo grants him entry. As they approach the charred building, Lorenzo explains that he used to work there when it was engulfed in flames. He reveals that even after 5 years, the owners are still embroiled in a legal battle with the insurance company. Before it became a store, the building was a hospital that closed down in the 1950s. Although the company expects security to patrol the premises every few hours, it usually remains peaceful. Lorenzo admits that the cosmetics department gives him an eerie feeling at night due to the lack of electricity and abundance of mirrors. Curious, Ben inquires about who polishes the mirrors, and the old guard reveals that it was the man he's replacing, Gary, who spent the entire night cleaning them. During their tour, Lorenzo asks why Ben left the police force, but he chooses not to answer that question. Finally, Lorenzo leads Ben to the security trailer. Meanwhile, the mirrors within the building come to life. Later, Amy returns home and asks Rosa, the housekeeper, about the kids. She informs Amy that they're upstairs with Ben. Amy goes upstairs and discovers them playing and talking. She requests to speak with Ben and they go to the bedroom, immediately starting to argue. He explains to her that he hasn't had a drink in 3 months and that he has a new job until he can be reinstated in the force. Amy doubts his ability to change, but he reminds her that she wasn't there for him when he had to take someone's life on duty. This angers Amy, as she believed in him when no one else did, while their son listens to their argument. He apologizes, but they continue to fight. He kisses her, showing that they still care deeply for each other, but she pulls away and tells him that she can't do it anymore. That night, Ben is at work, still adjusting to the new place. He comes across a bottle of whiskey in the cupboard, but decides to put it aside. His alarm goes off and he begins patrolling inside the building. The burned store's interior looks like a horrifying nightmare. Ben reaches the cosmetics department. He catches a glimpse of his reflection in one of the mirrors and cleans some dirt off his uniform. Before leaving, he notices a handprint on the mirror. He tries to clean it, but it seems to be stuck from the inside. The entire mirror is covered in handprints, reaching all the way to the top. In the reflection, a door opens, but in reality, it remains closed. Ben still goes to check the real door, but keeps an eye on the reflection. The door leads to a steep staircase, taking Ben down to a flooded basement. He switches on the lights and the door in the reflection slams shut. The next day, Ben is chilling at home, popping another tablet, when his sister barges in and tells him to quit taking them. She's worried about him, but he explains that even though he hates his new job, he's got to do it to support Amy and the kids. He doesn't want to be crashing on her couch forever. She suggests he should consider a daytime gig instead. Ben glances at the mirror and freaks out because his face looks like it's melting. Angie comes back and he snaps at her to leave him alone. He checks himself again, and everything seems normal. Ben starts to think he's losing his mind. Later, while on patrol at work, he's creeped out by the burned mannequins and the mirror-filled walls. He swears he sees someone behind him and quickly looks into another mirror, only for it to shatter and cut him. But when he looks back, the mirror is perfectly fine, and a burning woman appears behind him, disappearing when he turns around. He glances at the reflection and sees people engulfed in flames, but in reality, there's nothing there. Suddenly, a fire ignites and Ben is engulfed in flames, but in the real world, he's perfectly fine. He gathers himself and realizes that everything is back to normal, except he finds Gary's wallet on the floor. Ben heads back to the trailer and rummages through Gary's locker. He tends to his wound and checks the wallet, finding a note with the word Essiker scribbled on it. He returns to the building and heads up to the second floor, specifically the cosmetics department. As he explores, he hears a woman screaming in agony. He follows the sound and enters a room, searching every nook and cranny, but can't find her. Suddenly, he hears her again and catches a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror, but something seems off. When he pulls the curtain of the changing room, he finds nothing there. So, he brings the mirror closer and places it in front of the room. Then, he shines a light on it and sees the woman again. The woman, who is burning, can only be seen in the reflection. Ben's son Michael wakes up screaming and tells Amy that there is a lady screaming in the mirror. Amy tries to comfort him and assures him it's just a nightmare before leaving his room with the door open. Later, when Amy goes to bed and turns off the TV, the woman appears on the screen and in Michael's mirror. Ben goes to the bar where Angie works and shares his experience with her. Angie thinks it's just stress and advises him to talk to someone and get some sleep. Ben feels like the reflection in the mirror is looking back at him. Angie pleads with him to take care of himself. While Ben is sleeping, someone knocks on his door and he receives a package from Gary. The package contains articles about the fire in the store and the man who confessed to setting it on fire. Ben goes to work and wants to talk to Lorenzo about what he's been seeing, but Lorenzo informs him about Gary's death. They don't know how he died. Lorenzo mentions that someone will come to fix the leak in the basement. Amy is at work overseeing an autopsy when Ben calls her to meet him in the lobby. Ben asks Amy to show him Gary's body so he can understand how he died. Ben shares everything with Amy and convinces her to help him. They go into the freezer room where the pathologist informs them that Gary killed himself using a piece of mirror. The police are still investigating. He gazes at the lifeless body and in the reflection, he hears the word Essiker. In addition, Ben requests his file and successfully convinces Amy to assist him. He examines the photographs of the crime scene and shows Amy one where the weapon is visible. Interestingly, only the reflected weapon is stained with blood, while the real one remains clean. Ben begins to suspect that the mirrors are distorting reality, compelling them to do things against their will. Amy advises him to refrain from such thoughts if he wants to be reinstated. He confesses that he is seeing things and experiencing the emotions they evoke. Curious, she asks him about the medication he takes to combat his drinking problem. Ben shows her the medication and she informs him about its numerous side effects. He apologizes for bothering her and expresses gratitude for her attempt to help. Later on, Angie prepares to take a bath. She removes her robe and walks towards the bathtub, while her reflection remains in the mirror. Once she is inside the tub, her reflection begins to tear her face apart, causing the same gruesome effect in reality. Tragically, Angie dies in the bathtub. Subsequently, the police arrive to investigate her death. A detective enters the bathroom and drains the tub. Upon uncovering her face, he witnesses the horrifying damage. When Ben returns home, the officers prevent him from entering, but he manages to break free from their grasp. As he catches sight of the lifeless body, he vomits in the sink. Ben weeps over her body in the mortuary, while Amy converses with Larry and defends Ben, stating that he would never harm his little sister. Larry confirms that most of Ben's story aligns, but mentions that a colleague informed the police about Ben's intention to quit his job. He informs Amy that they will release him since they have no grounds to hold him. Amy approaches Ben and offers him to stay with her and the children at their house, but he refuses, not wanting to put them in danger. Ben believes that Angie came before the mirror, but Amy misunderstands and advises him to tell Larry everything. He doesn't think either of them will believe his perspective on what has occurred. That evening, Ben is at the store attempting to break the largest mirror. When his attempts fail, he resorts to using his gun and manages to make a dent. However, the mirror miraculously repairs itself. Frustrated, he continues to bang on it and ends up dropping to the ground in desperation, questioning what the mirror wants from him. To his surprise, the mirror communicates with him by writing the word Essiker. Later on, Ben asks Larry to research the name for him since he couldn't find any information online. He is also investigating the store and the fire, but struggles to connect the dots. The arsonist who started the fire in the store claimed that the mirrors were to blame. Larry calls Ben back and informs him that he couldn't find anything on Essiker, so Ben instructs him to search for the arsonist's name, Terrence Barry. Larry reveals that Barry is deceased but provides Ben with the name of the asylum where he was once held. At the asylum, Ben speaks with Barry's doctor, who explains that the patient believed in two separate realities. The doctor shows Ben interviews with Barry, where he claims that the mirror killed his family because he couldn't find Essiker. Worried for Amy and the children's safety, Ben goes to their house and removes all the mirrors, frightening Rosa and the kids. However, he struggles to remove one mirror from his daughter's room and decides to paint over it instead. Amy arrives after Rosa calls her and becomes angry when she sees what Ben is doing. She asks him to leave, but he insists on covering the mirror first. Amy is confused about his behavior. She mentions that Michael is acting strangely due to Ben's influence. Ben takes her outside to show her what is happening, but when he shoots the mirror, it doesn't heal itself as before. The children peer at him through the window, filled with fear over the unfolding events. Amy pleads with him to put the gun away and come inside, but he drives away. In the car, he can't calm his nerves and nearly gets into an accident when he catches a glimpse of Angie in the rearview mirror. He narrowly avoids the collision and shatters the mirror. Ben returns to the store and ventures into the basement, searching for something. He stumbles upon an old sign indicating the location of the psychiatric wing that existed before and discovers the source of the water seeping into the basement. He creates a hole in the wall and enters a room containing a peculiar contraption. He steps into the contraption, which has a chair at its center. He notices the restraints on the chair and realizes that it is surrounded by mirrors. Ben continues to gaze at his reflection when suddenly it shoots at him. Later, he calls Larry once again and requests assistance in locating the patient employee manifest for the former hospital. Ben instructs him to search for a patient or employee named Essiker. Before ending the call, Larry advises him to stay low. They meet that evening, and Larry hands over all the medical files he managed to find on Anna Bessaker. Larry discovered the files in their evidence storage as they were part of a cold case. The girl was only 12 years old when she was admitted. She perished along with the other patients in the hospital, who turned on each other on the same fateful night. The hospital was subsequently shut down. Their doctor was arrested, but he took his own life with a shard of the cell mirror the following day. Ben returns home and delves into Essaker's files. He notices that she appears blurry in all the pictures taken at the hospital. She was admitted for schizophrenia with delusional and violent tendencies. The only clear picture he finds of her is from the year prior to her death. He discovers another document indicating that she had been discharged from the hospital 2 days prior to the massacre. He hears a strange cracking sound coming from behind the TV covers. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he removes the covers to reveal a reflection of Anna's photo. This revelation shocks him, as he realizes that Anna is still alive. Meanwhile, his daughter is busy brushing her teeth in front of a mirror that Amy brought back to the house. Michael is seen talking to someone in his room while sitting in front of a mirror. He stands up, but Amy notices his reflection still in the mirror. When the child leaves, Amy approaches the mirror and is greeted by a smiling reflection. Frightened by what she saw, Amy calls Ben and urges him to come to the house. She finally believes him, and together they start covering up every reflective surface in the house, from mirrors to windows and TVs. Once they finish, Ben bids farewell to the kids and Amy, who expresses regret for not believing him. Determined to find Anna, Ben travels to Pennsylvania. He spots her name on a mailbox and turns onto a dirt road. Recognizing the house from the photo, Ben knocks on the door, but receives no response. He approaches the window, only to be startled by a dog. A young boy emerges and inquires about his intentions. Ben explains that he is looking for Anna Essaker. The boy relays the message to his mother, who steps out of the house and questions Ben's motives. Ben fabricates a story about writing a paper on schizophrenia, convincing her to send the boy inside to inform his grandfather about someone inquiring about his sister. The old man leads Ben to the basement, where Anna used to be kept due to her violent fits. He shares that they sought help from priests, healers, and doctors from all over the county, but none were able to assist her. Ben enters and observes the condition of the place where the girl was held, while her brother informs him that Dr. Kane was the only one who responded to their pleas for help. He didn't believe in demonic possession, but he thought he could assist her. Ben inquires about where the girl went after leaving the hospital, but her brother believes she died there. Ben informs the man that he knows she was discharged earlier and discovers that she stayed with them for a short period. She left because strange things started happening with the mirrors in the house, even though the girl was completely cured. He asks the brother where he can find her, and the brother reveals that she was sent to a monastery where mirrors are prohibited to prevent them from reaching her. Ben arrives at the monastery and requests to speak with Anna. Ben tells Anna that he came to ask her why the mirrors from the hospital are so desperate to find her. He pleads for her help in saving his family. Anna explains to him that the mirrors are windows to our world, and what seeks to find her is what is trapped inside them. Dr. Kane's therapy involved keeping patients in a mirrored room for days on end to rid them of their schizophrenia. But he was mistaken. Anna was not cured. The demon that was inside her transferred into the mirrors and has been collecting the souls of those it has killed ever since. She believes that if she returns there, it can use her as a vessel to cross back into the real world. Ben tries to convince her, but she refuses. He tells her about all the people who were murdered and shows her a picture of his family so she can understand who he is trying to save. Meanwhile, Michael's reflection opens the door to the room where Amy and the child are. Ben calls Amy to update her on his progress, but she suddenly realizes that Michael is no longer by her side. When she peeks through the door, she discovers that the house is completely flooded. Ben warns her to be cautious of the reflections in the water. To her surprise, she notices that the mirrors have been scraped off as well. Ben advises her to find Michael and stay away from the water and mirrors. Suddenly, something moves behind her and Amy accidentally drops her phone. In a rush, Ben barges into Anna's room and threatens her to come with him. At the same time, Amy is shutting off all the pipes, and when she reaches the one in the bath, she catches a glimpse of Michael's reflection. Before she knows it, she is pushed under the water and begins to drown. Meanwhile, the daughter hears her mother's voice calling her and enters her room. As she steps inside, she sees her mom's reflection behind her. The reflection grabs her and starts cutting her, but the real Amy arrives and pulls her away from the mirror. The reflection becomes furious that they managed to escape. Amy hides her daughter in the closet and instructs her not to move from there, no matter what she hears. Despite the ongoing flooding, Amy heads down to the first floor to search for Michael. She finds him scraping off the paint from the mirror with a knife. Michael assures Amy not to be afraid because he just wants to play with them. He then runs away with the knife, and she follows him, only to spot his reflection under a chair, thinking he's hiding from her. The reflection cuts her and flees. Meanwhile, Ben takes Anna back to the building. As soon as they enter, objects start appearing in the mirrors all around them. They make their way to the basement, and Ben helps Anna sit on a chair since she keeps her eyes shut. Anna tells him to strap her onto the chair, as it seems to be the only way to save his family. Back at the house, Amy discovers Michael sitting in the water. As she approaches him, his reflection glances at her and then pulls him under the water. Amy struggles to rescue him but fails, and he drowns. Anna instructs Ben to stay inside while she begins to pray, as the demon forces its way through the mirror into reality. She opens her eyes and suddenly, all the mirrors in the building shatter, resulting in her tragic demise. At the same time, Michael emerges from the water and Amy performs CPR on him until he coughs up the water. The mirrors in the entire building are completely obliterated. Ben enters the mirror chamber, only to discover that Anna is nowhere to be found. As he listens, he hears something crawling on the walls and witnesses the demon taking control of Anna's body. Ben attempts to shoot at it, but the demon effortlessly evades his bullets. Eventually, the demon attacks Ben, throwing him out of the room and dragging him through the basement. Despite his struggle, Ben manages to push the demon onto a gas pipe and shoots at it, causing a massive explosion. As the building begins to crumble, Ben desperately tries to escape. The demon once again assaults him, but he fights back and traps it under the rubble. Unfortunately, Ben becomes trapped as well. Miraculously, he frees himself from the debris and makes his way outside, where a police car awaits. Policemen and firefighters pass by him without noticing his presence. Ben approaches Lorenzo, only to realize that his badge is facing the wrong way, just like the signs on the cars. Finally, he examines the wound on his hand, only to discover that it has appeared on the opposite hand. As Ben steps outside, he realizes that he cannot see his reflection. Curiously, he places his palm against a mirror, and his fingerprint appears on the other side, indicating he is now in Mirror World. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. It will take 1 second of you, but a great milestone for us.